Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. My name is Kim Brisky, and I am the Director of Communications at SomerCor. We are a certified development company. That means we're authorized by the Small Business Administration to service SBA 504 loans, and we also administer the Small Business Improvement Fund, SBIF, and Neighborhood Opportunity Fund, NOF. So I did want to give a quick shout out again to the BACP Expo that's coming up on the 20th. I will be there. So if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to come visit me at the table. Additionally, I put my email there for a reason. Today we're going to be covering 3 programs relatively quickly with not all the details, but a good top line to see if they're the right fit for you. So if you have additional follow-up questions, you're welcome to ask them here or also send me an email. I did also just want to, just remind you that today, all these programs, while they are slightly different, the one thing that they have in common is that they are all for commercial real estate improvements. This is not for working capital, which would be for things like inventory and salaries and rent and things like that. Today, we're really focusing on those fixed assets. So we'll kind of move forward and get started. And I'm going to turn off my camera for the presentation side, but I'll come back on during the question and answer section. So today we're going to be covering 3 loan programs that we offer. We actually do both the Small Business Improvement Fund, or SBIF, DPD's NOF program, as well as the SBA 504 loan program. For all of these programs that we're talking about today, when I hit them, I'm going to be covering their mission, eligibility, program rules, some sample projects to get you inspired to think about your own business, as well as some details about the application process and resources. Let's dig in. So I think that a lot of people on this call are probably familiar with SBIF and NOF. I'm going to keep using those acronyms for the rest of the day here. But I think it's important first to kind of know what the program similarities are. Both of these are run through the City Department of Planning and Development, and they're both administered by SomerCor. Both of these are focused on permanent building improvement costs, not residential costs. That also includes if you are a landlord of an apartment building that's not considered a commercial property in this instance. And all applicants must fulfill a financial requirement. This means that you have to be able to show financing and contribute a portion of the total project cost. It's a reimbursement grant. So be prepared to be able to finance the work that you're doing and be reimbursed at the end. Eligible work items include things like roofing, facade, storefront interior, HVAC, plumbing, and other upgrades like that. The goal of this program, both of them, is to really make sure that you're able to not only strengthen your own business, but also be a permanent fixture on that commercial corridor and strengthen that for the rest of the community. Here are some key program differences before we dig into the SBIF rules. For SBIF, it's funded by TIF funding, or tax increment financing, and every 30 days we have a new rollout for applications for different areas. These projects are funded as a reimbursement grant, as I mentioned, that you as the client pay upfront for the work and are reimbursed after project completion. There's also a geographic eligibility component, and it's limited to actual TIF districts, which are located all across the city on the northwest and south sides. Also, manufacturing and industrial projects are eligible, but new construction is not. What's unique about SBIF is a non-competitive grant. This means that all eligible applicants that meet the requirements will receive a grant, assuming that there is fund availability. For NOF, this is actually funded by a density bonus program. Essentially, if there's development near the loop, there's actually going to be a fee that's levied on them, and that's what helps actually fund the NOF program. The funding is always available. NOF is actually always accepting new applications, but quarterly we review them and award out new finalists. We have 2 payment options here for NOF. You can either do reimbursement similar to SBIF, or you can use an escrow option to pay contractors directly. Similarly to SBIF, there is a geographic eligibility limit, but this one focuses on the south, southwest, and west sides here to make sure that we're covering all of those neighborhoods. Manufacturing and industrial projects are ineligible, and new ground-up construction, though, is eligible. The other big difference is NOF is a competitive grant. Applications are judged on neighborhood impact and readiness to award funding. So let's dig in a little bit deeper into SBIF. We are actually in our 25th year of the SBIF program now, actually almost 26th. And SomerCor has been the administrator the entire time. And you can see on this map here of all the different districts, and then the SBIF are highlighted in the pink. And we actually have been, as I said, the administrator for the entire life of the program. So when we're talking about the SBIF grant, here are the parameters to see if you are the right fit. For an applicant, to apply, you have to make sure that the property you're applying with is in the TIF district where SBIF funds are authorized and available and open for applications. To apply, you could either be a landlord, you could be an owner-operator, meaning that you both own the property and own the business that's operating out of it. You could be a tenant in the business and have written approval from the property owner. Also, startups are eligible, but you will need a Chicago business license in all cases. This is really where we dig into what the eligibility limits are going to be. If you're a commercial or industrial landlord, you need to make sure that your net worth is $9 million or less, and you have $500K or less liquid asset per individual that is owning this property. Let's say that you are a tenant or you're owner occupied. You also must average 9 million or less in gross sales. If you're an industrial business, tenant or owner occupied, you will be eligible if you have 200 or fewer full-time employees. If you are an owner occupied property, you are subject to both the tenant and landlord requirements. When it comes to the grant size, you can have a maximum of $250,000 for industrial property, $150,000 maximum for a commercial property that's occupied by a single owner or tenant, and a $250,000 maximum for a commercial property that's a multiple tenant or multi-tenant owner property. That's going to be with 75 maximum assistance per individual applicant. This is really important though. SBIF applications and grants are not transferable between applicants and properties. Let's say that you are a landlord that owns multiple properties, or you are looking at a couple of different spaces. If you have a few locations for your business, every property must submit a separate application. And you can receive more than one grant for one location up to that maximum assistance. When you reach that ceiling, for example, if you were an industrial property, your ceiling would be $250,000. Once you hit that, you have to wait 3 years and then you're able to reapply. When it comes to reimbursement, most of our applicants fall into 2 buckets. They are either in the 90% of eligible cost reimbursement, or they're an industrial property where all reimbursement, you actually will be reimbursed for 50% of eligible costs. For commercial, it's either if you are between 0 and 3 million in sales or net worth, you will be reimbursed for 90% of eligible costs. Between 3 and 6, 60% of eligible costs. Between 6 and 9 million, 30%. So if this project sounds like something that you're interested in, the first thing you need to do is make sure that your property is actually in a SBIF district. To do that, you can go to SomerCor.com/SBIF. You can enter it in to the locator tool, which you can find on our website. Once you go to the locator tool, you enter your address in, and this is the screen that pops up. What it will show is if your property is in a different district, when it's going to be open for applications, as well as delegate agencies that can help you with the application process. It's important to know when your TIF district is going to be open for applications. Every 30 days is a new opportunity for new districts to open up. If you want to keep track of when new areas are opening, you can sign up for our SBIFgram, which is our e-newsletter at SomerCor.com/SBIF. You'll also probably hear this news from your alderman. You'll probably see it on the DPD's website. So there's lots of different places that you can see it. I have here a screen capture of what's currently on the SBIF website for SomerCor. You can see we have all of the districts that are scheduled to roll out in 2025. Our hope is that we'll have confirmation from the city in the coming months for 2026 as well. So if you find out, yep, my property is in a SBIF district, I want to apply, we can kind of dig in further into the eligibility rules and talk about business type. The list I have here is not comprehensive, and you're welcome to reach out with any questions, but some of the key ones to think about. National chain and franchise businesses are ineligible. Things like liquor stores, hotels and motels, startup bars and taverns, places of worship. These are all ineligible. If you have questions, feel free to reach out and we can work through it with you. Improvement costs. All right, assuming your business is an eligible business type, what kind of work can you do? This list, again, not comprehensive, but it gives you a really good snapshot of the types of projects that we see. We see things focusing on the exterior envelope. That's going to be things like roofing and facade, things that are part of your signage that's permanently on the building. That's going to be the signage, awnings, things like that. A lot of our improvements we see are structures needed to be compliant with ADA needs. That's going to be railings, ramps, ADA compliant restrooms. Another bulk we see is things for HVAC, mechanical systems, plumbing, electrical. We also can cover certain architectural and management fees related to the projects. Additionally, if you need to do an interior build out, that's going to be things like carpentry, drywall, painting, new flooring, all of that can be included. Additionally, we do allow for the purchase of adjacent land parcels for expansion of that existing business or parking. Here are a list of some ineligible improvement costs. Again, not comprehensive. If you have any questions, feel free to work with us. Number one, new construction. This is going to include ground up construction, an addition to an existing building. Additionally, new construction is going to include any alterations to a property that is less than 3 years old from its first certificate of occupancy. So if you have a vanilla box space that was just completed, that will also not be eligible for SBIF. We cannot cover standalone minor repairs. So if were looking for a new coat of paint, unfortunately, that's not something that we can standalone cover. Anything that's equipment related, if you can put it on a dolly and wheel it out, it's not going to be eligible. A few exceptions that we have are like larger items that are not movable, maybe like a walk-in cooler or sometimes the HVAC, the actual fire suppression system, things like that in the kitchen that are a little bit more intense and can't be rolled out on the dolly. Those are things that we can sometimes cover. A lot of exterior things that are more decorative, planters, anything having to do with an outdoor dining or drinking area, roof deck, patio, balcony, all of that, unfortunately, is not eligible. Additionally, we cannot do parking lot construction or repair, landscaping, and for all across the board, any work on interior residential units, that does not work. Obviously, we have a lot of mixed use properties here in the city of Chicago. So for any of the residential areas, we will not be able to cover that work. Design requirements. So again, as I mentioned earlier, the SBIF program, what's really exciting about it is that it's not only to help your individual business, but also to help beautify that and strengthen that commercial corridor. So we do include a design requirement for the exterior. That means if your grant is going to be over $25,000, we're going to request that you make at least one exterior improvement using at least 10% of the maximum grant amount. That would be, you can get exterior waivers if your exterior was just recently redone, but most of the time we're going to be able to find an opportunity for you to improve your exterior. We also really encourage folks to see DPD's design guidelines. They're linked here. And I'm happy to make sure that anyone who's viewing the presentation today gets an actual email copy of the deck as well. You should really be sure to look at this and discuss with us and any of your design professionals beforehand, so that when you're drawing up plans, you don't have to go multiple times back for review to get approval. Some key things to think about, especially for your exterior design, and we really want to make sure that it's welcoming and safe for customers, and also in line with the rest of the design that exists on that commercial corridor. So things like maintaining the original design and window openings when possible, making sure you have permanent signage so people know that's where your business is, make sure that there's adequate lighting to welcome customers, and avoiding window clutter to let in natural light and not have the windows all covered with a bunch of signs. Additionally, for security, other forms are preferred, but if necessary, only interior mounted security gates that are integrated into the storefront design will be reimbursed. When it comes to applicant compliance, we will be checking on all applicants in the approval stage to make sure that they're complying with child support laws and are not indebted to the city. Any scofflaw debt must be cured to participate in SBIF. You can do this by paying off directly right away, or you can cure the debt by having a city payment plan. Also, make sure that if you do take the payment plan option, you must be in compliance with that to receive any SBIF reimbursement funds. Additionally, all applicants must be current on property taxes to receive conditional commitment for funding or reimbursement of completed work. Each applicant must also sign an economic disclosure agreement. Also, all grantees must sign an affidavit certifying that they will not relocate out of the TIF district or sell the business or property within a 3-year period following the disbursement of funds. If you are a landlord applicant, to be reimbursed, you must have an executed lease with a qualified tenant, and that tenant must be occupying and actively operating their business or non-for-profit out of that lease space. So now I want to just shift gears a little bit to be able to show you an example or two. This is for in the Madison-Austin corridor TIF. This is Wiley's Chicken and Ribs on 3848 West Madison Street. You can see the before and after. The before, the interior was really needed a full gut build out, and the exterior also similarly needed an entirely new facade and storefront. And we can see that that's the work that they did. You can see the new storefront system that they put in and the build out here of the kitchen and ordering area. Here's an example in the 47th and Halsted TIF. That's at 1253 West 47th Street. This is actually a landlord property. Previously, it was an auto repair shop, and you can see here we had, the graffiti and the bright colors, and it was an auto repair shop. So you can imagine that interior-wise, they definitely needed to do some significant cleanup. And this was the finished product. Currently, this is actually a cabinetry making business. That's the tenant that's in there. But you can see how that really impacts that commercial corridor having this building there. So if the SBIF sounds like a program that you're interested in applying for, we now have shifted to a fully online application that you can find either on our website or the City of Chicago SBIF website. We do this application through Submittable. If you are having issues with Submittable, we do have a PDF application version that you can fill out and email to us. Regardless, all applications must be received by 5 p.m. on the date that applications are due, or they will not be considered eligible. When we're thinking about the application process, what do you need to have ready? You really just have to worry about filling out that one application form that I believe is 8 pages now. And really what you need to be able to give is very basic information about your business, where it is, as well as the type of work that you want to do and a basic estimate. You don't need a formal estimate. You don't need architectural drawings at the time of application. You will need those eventually, but not at that time. Things that you should start collecting to be ready as you move forward the process. You're going to need your business tax returns, your economic disclosure statement. You're going to need an affidavit of child support. For startups, and honestly, for any business, I recommend making sure that you have a tight business plan and 3 years of projected income and expenses. Any additional documents that you would need from this list, the SomerCor team will request those directly. Once you apply, this is the basic timeline for SBIF. You're going to have stage 1 up to 20 days to submit all of the additional materials that are requested. Then stage 2, you're going to have 120 days to go through getting plans and specs, and you will find out if you have any City of Chicago debt via the scofflaw check. During that time, you will need to have those cured. Again, that might mean paying it outright, or it might mean setting up a payment plan. Once you move from stage 2 into stage 3, that's when we're talking about construction. The Department of Planning and Development will review your project. Once approved, you will get a conditional commitment letter. At that point is when construction can begin. Any work done up to this point prior to actually getting this letter will not be able to be reimbursed by the City of Chicago. So I say that again, the conditional commitment letter is the signal that you can begin construction. Any work done before that point will not be reimbursed. You'll have up to 10 months to actually do the project construction. Concurrently, you will also need to be able to show within 120 days of getting your commitment letter that number 1, you have proof of permit, either that you applied or you actually have your permit or proof of permit application. And number 2, proof of financing, being able to show in that time period up to 120 days following the commitment letter that you have funds. And to be able to get started, you have to be able to show that you have available at least 50% of the total project costs. Once the construction is complete, SomerCor is going to do a site visit, and you're actually going to submit to SomerCor all things like invoices, canceled check, a sworn statement, waivers of lien. Once SomerCor reviews those and everything is in order, you will receive a check within 4 to 6 weeks. It's really important to know that unless DPD is granted any extensions, applicants who do not complete the stage within the required time limit will be disqualified and removed from the program. However, we recognize that construction can not always go exactly to plan. We know that's probably more the norm than not. But that means that you need to be in constant communication with your project manager. If you need to get a new contractor, if your scope of work has to change, if you have a different mechanical issue, something else is going on, you have a personal issue that's delaying the project, let us know. We will work with you the best we can. Our goal is to get your project to completion. To get through this process, there's lots of resources that we have on our SomerCor website. We have things like a list of lenders who have lent through for the SBIF program before. So if you need to get a loan to be able to do the work up front, things like the design guidelines that I talked about before, as well as SBIF program rules, if you want to be able to read that. Additionally, you can also connect with your local delegate agencies, that would be like your Chamber of Commerce, for assistance in filling out your application. So I'm going to take a quick pause here, and if there are any questions that people have specific to SBIF at this moment, I'm happy to answer them. I will also do a Q&A session at the end.
Right now, I am not seeing any questions.
Okay.
The chat is enabled if anyone wants to put any questions in the chat.
Okay. It sounds
I-
fine to me. I see.
Just one disappeared. This appears to be a new aspect feature for NOF as reimbursement. Are applicants immediately denied if applicants do not have funding? Interested to understand the escrow.
Well, we will be getting to NOF in the next session, so we can talk about that. Again, the NOF is a competitive grant, so there are several elements that are going to be considered, and one of them is project readiness, and the other is really impact on the community. So I see a few things. Somebody said I have property, so that's not for me. That's fine.
Yeah, I think you're good.
All right, then I will continue on into digging into NOF. So the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund, again, SomerCor actually has also administered this program since its beginnings, but it is a little bit more recent. It was launched in 2016. And really the focus is to be able to support businesses on the south, southwest, and west sides. Again, residential properties and projects are not eligible. I talked a little bit about how this really is about leveraging new development near the loop and being able to use those funds to support these endeavors. Let's talk a little bit about eligible project types. So a little bit different than SBIF, and that you can expand and do a ground up construction. So those are different than SBIF. You can also, though, do just general renovations at a current location. The grant size, the base grant is up to $250,000 with additional assistance. Up to 20% of the base grant is available for approved technical assistance, which we'll get into later. We already have available a list of NOF approved architects and project managers that are available at somercor.com/NOF. We'll get to that too. And as I mentioned again before, this is a competitive selection process based on the details of your application. Grantees are expected to complete their project within 2 years. There are some similarities and then again some differences between SBIF and NOF. In terms of eligible applicant types, again, commercial property owners with known business uses. We're going to say that we do not allow for speculative vanilla box type of project. So we really want to make sure that there's a specific use for the work that you're going to do. You have a specific tenant in mind. Commercial business tenants with a landlord approval, they are eligible to apply. Nonprofits that have a revenue generating element are also eligible to apply. Non-eligible applicants. That's going to be any residential properties, including home-based businesses, live workspaces, heavy manufacturing, industrial businesses and properties, social service organizations, including workforce development, schools, and daycare centers. I'll pause for 1 second. Daycare center is allowed via the SBIF program. That is actually a popular industry type there. However, for NOF, that is not going to be accepted. Additionally, churches and places of worship are not eligible. When it comes to the types of eligible expenses, there are a lot of similarities between SBIF and NOF. Really, we are focused on major exterior and interior renovations to the existing business or build outs interior. We have the fees, roofing, masonry, facade, windows, doors, things like that, as well as mechanical systems and HVAC and security. Things that are not eligible, as we discussed, sort of the minor improvements, minor cosmetic improvement, any work on residential units, any repairs to address building code violations, or any business operating expenses. So being able to calculate your grant. The NOF-based grant is calculated from the project's eligible expenses, which DPD and the NOF program administrator determine from the project's chosen construction bid. The base grant cannot exceed 75% of the total eligible business costs or $250,000, whichever is less. So you are always able to get a maximum grant for the project of up to $250,000. However, it's going to be a reimbursement of 75% of the total eligible project costs. Additionally, you're able to get another up to $50,000 for if you need technical assistance support. I have a few example projects here. We have Jamaican Jerk Villa and Auburn Gresham. You can see the before picture that it was, looks like a building had completely really collapsed on itself there. And then it was able to do a complete rebuild. And now it's a restaurant with indoor and outdoor space. Another cool example is Osito's Tap in Little Village. This was previously just a storefront next to a liquor store. Now it's turned into a bar, speakeasy, and you can see here just the difference in the craftsmanship that's there. For NOF applicants, this is the general timeline. You're going to be starting here for the first 3 to 6 months as a finalist. Then you're going to shift into the grantee once you actually have all your paperwork together and your project is approved. After it's complete, you're going to be shifting into the alumni status. And we will be touching base with you every couple of years to do a survey to see how the funds for the program have impacted you. Grantees are expected to complete their project within 2 years. Loss of site control or project delays are grounds for revocation of the grant awards. So to pause here, site control. What does site control mean? That's going to be things like you actually have a lease if you're a tenant, or you have the deed if you are the property owner. If you suddenly do not have either of those things, that will end the project because you need to have site control to be able to do it. We understand, similarly with SBIF, that project delays can happen, but it's really critical that you keep in touch with your SomerCor project manager. We will do our best to work with you, but these deadlines are important to make sure that all the applicants to the program are able to maximize these funds and have their impact. We have a lot of technical assistance resources available for NOF applicants. That's really a huge part of this program. Number one, they have now a specific technical assistance fund that I mentioned previously that provides additional assistance of up to 20% of their maximum grant amount. This is really in addition to the grant, and it's really focused on getting that technical assistance from a pre-selected list of project managers and architects. These are going to be the people that can help you get that project from start to finish. We now have a business coaching pipeline where applicants who need more support with developing their business model and business plan can be directed connectly with no-cost business coaching services. I encourage everybody who is applying for NOF, if your business is a startup, if your business is in growth mode, either way, it's always good to have another person take a look at your plans and your projections. Additionally, we want to be able to support more financing for this project. We have now established a loan loss reserve, and that is something that with other community development financial institutions, CDFIs, these are nonprofit lenders, and these will help pipeline applicants access capital. So what our goal here was to make sure that CDFIs who are selected by the NOF program are fully prepared to be able to help provide capital to some of our applicants who are getting ready and need to make sure they have the capital to be able to do this work. We also want to make sure that all of our applicants have access to all the toolkits that you might need. One of them is just how do you go through Submittable? If you've never used Submittable before, we have a toolkit for that. Making sure you have an understanding of the resources that you're going to need for laying out your construction plan, how to prove site control, construction bids, and how do you document your source of funds. All of these things are available to you with examples so that you can make sure that your application and following documentation is correct. Additionally, similarly to SBIF, we have community partners, and these are your local delegate agencies and others who have gone through additional training and are ready to be able to assist you with your application. Similarly to SBIF, the NOF application process is completely online. You can find it at chicago.gov/NOF. You will have to be able to create a free account there. And a preview of the application and questions and things, you can actually see those previously in our toolkit to help prepare you before. Applications can be saved as drafts and continued later on. You have to be prepared with all the application documentation, so you will have to upload documents as well. Any applications without these documents will be disqualified. As I mentioned previously, NOF applications are accepted on a rolling basis. The next review deadline is November 14th. So I'm going to pause here. I know there was a specific question about financing that I wanted to just dig back into really quickly. So the two different ways that an NOF program grantee can be able to pay is either if you are participating through a reimbursement grant, meaning that you have that financing available upfront and are doing it that way. But I would say that traditionally, most of our NOF projects use the NOF, they actually go through the escrow process. And, you know, both ways, it doesn't matter if you do it with fully reimbursement or through the escrow. You need to have some skin in the game. You need to be prepared to put at least your, as you see here, the 25% of eligible project costs for the grantee into the escrow to be able to get things started, and then you'll be able to do draws directly from that escrow to be able to pay the work off as we go. So I will pause before we switch gears into the 504 program to see if we have any questions.
Okay, great. Did you state that live work properties do not apply?
Live work? Yes, they do not.
Perfect. How would one get on a list as a vendor of front funding until reimbursement take place?
So we actually had the vetting process was just earlier this year for applicants to apply. We actually had an RFP for different CDFIs to be able to apply. So at that point, that RFP is closed. We also don't want to, if you're a traditional lender like a bank, I don't think that any of them were open to that process. What I would recommend is that for anybody who is a traditional lender who maybe is interested, I think that maybe attending the next NOF focused webinar, and you can also email me offline, and I'm happy to chat with you further about how to connect with more NOF applicants.
Okay, great. Does location matter? I'm not sure if that was for the NOF or the SBIF, but does location matter? I think it came in right in the beginning.
Yes, it matters for both. We now have on the NOF page, we actually do have, I apologize, I didn't have a screen capture here because it was under construction. We now have a new locator tool similar to SBIF. And the NOF, you actually, as long as you enter in your address on chicago.gov/NOF, it'll actually have a map and it will show whether or not you are eligible or not. It's really focused on the south, southwest, west sides, and they have targeted commercial corridors that will determine eligibility.
Great. How about an innovation hub where I'll be rented to local entrepreneurs?
So if it really depends on the actual fee structure, how that would work. What we are not doing is anything that it's like you're at being able to help you develop something and then you be able to operate as like a landlord for just like different commercial spaces, different commercial tenants. If it was, I think I'd have to see the full business model to say, I think there's definitely possibilities. But we'd have to see what your actual revenue model was to make that work.
Great. There's a few questions on, could a project be completed too fast, too soon?
Too fast or too soon? Well, if any work is done before you apply, that will not be eligible for any type of repayment. So if you've just completed work and now you want to apply, that unfortunately is not going to work. Otherwise, we are welcome to have projects for NOF that are big or small. I know some of the examples that we showed today were really large gut jobs, but let's say that you are an NOF eligible applicant and all you really need is, $30,000 worth of masonry and storefront work. You're more than welcome to apply, and it certainly doesn't need to take 2 years to do that.
Okay, great. I recall at one point there was a grant program which appeared to be a branch of some sort known as recovery that allowed it for multi-use. Is this program a feature available through the NOF program?
So the community recovery grant, that's what the city of Chicago offers that. Believe it or not, that is one that that SomerCor does not administer. So I'm not as familiar with that. So I think the question was for if we could use for mixed use. Was the question?
They're just wondering if it's part of the actual NOF program.
No, it's not. It's not. In terms of mixed use, it's similar to the SBIF that we can help with any of the commercial portions of work. But if you are in a mixed use property, any residential work will not be eligible.
Great. And then there's two questions on the SBIF funds, if you want to go back, or do you want me to hold them?
I'm happy to do it.
Sure. So maybe I missed it, but how can we search TIF districts with available SBIF funds?
Sure. So it won't be able to see what funds are available, but I will click back here. Two things to help you out. Number one, if you're looking at the SBIF website, this is the list here. This is what we have at somercor.com/SBIF. This will tell you all of the districts that are currently scheduled to roll out in 2025. If you are not sure if you are in a SBIF district, then again, similarly, you go to the SomerCor website. You can click on the locator tool link here and you enter your address and it will tell you if you are in a TIF district and if it's open for SBIF, when that period is and who can help. Again, anybody here who has questions about are they eligible for X, Y, and Z, they're welcome to send me an email. Additionally, though, my first stop would always be chicago.gov/NOF, chicago.gov/SBIF. They have all of the basic rules and eligibility items listed there.
Okay, great. I was approved for SPIF, but had to relocate. I did inquire if the new location was eligible, but have not heard back. Should I
Okay.
email you regarding this matter?
You are welcome to email me. Again, I would also suggest that you visit chicago.gov/SPIF and you can look at the map yourself, but I am happy to double check with you. And it's as a further example for this, as this applicant, as they moved, they were no longer eligible in that location. If they are eligible in this new location, because they didn't complete the project at the old one, they will still be able to start fresh with this new location, assuming it is eligible and that a rollout period has been scheduled.
Great. Would a new business who has generated the funding requirements or is approved to generate the funding within the application period eligible to apply for this grant?
So I think I always tell people apply if you are geographically eligible and you have a type of business that is eligible. The finances are stuff that will be taken into consideration. And if you're able to demonstrate through projections that you will have that financing available, then I think it's still worth it to apply. We mentioned previously that startups are eligible, and we have a lot of startups that do apply. So, but I would say then if you are a startup and you may not have the revenue and capital at this moment, definitely for NOF, take advantage of the business coaching elements that are offered through the program so that they can help you make sure you get your finances in order and all of the documentation ready to go.
Okay, great. So if you are in, the map is colored.
For SBIF and NOF, actually, I think both of them, that's correct. And you'll be able to see it if we're looking at the map. I'm going back really quickly. You can see there's a dark, in the actual map, you see there's like a little dark pointer pointing at the dark green there. That means he's in. But really what you want to be looking at is less about the arrow and more about the information on the left side, which tells you, hey, you're in a TIF. And these are the dates that it's open and who the delegate agency is. If you're unable to tell from the map or it looks like it's on the line or you have any questions, feel free, just send me an email and we'll go from there.
Okay, sounds great. You're good to proceed. No more
Awesome.
questions.
And Jerlyn, feel free to, if it isn't already in there, put my email into the chat box, because I know I've said a couple times, make sure to email me, and I had it at the beginning, but feel free to put it back in there again.
Great, thank you.
No problem. All right, everyone. So now we're shifting gears. What we were talking about for the earlier parts of this presentation were all about grant programs, and we're all focused on the city of Chicago. Now we're going to shift into a loan program that we at SomerCor are actually eligible to lend statewide, as well as in parts of Northwest Indiana and Southeast Wisconsin as well. That's the SBA 504 program. Again, this is not for working capital. This is really focused on commercial real estate and heavy equipment, about those fixed assets. As you know, not surprising to anyone, the federal government is not super creative in their naming programs, and it's called the 504 program because that was the name of the section of the law when it was created. It's been in its current structure since 1986. And the reason why this program was created was to respond to concerns that small businesses were not being able to access capital from traditional lenders. And so they created this new program that is not only focused on getting capital to these entrepreneurs, but also meets several public policy requirements. That makes it unique, and it makes it the SBA's premier economic development program. It really focuses on job creation, community development, and supporting minority, women-owned, and veteran-owned businesses. So what can you use it for? This actually helps small businesses who are ready to buy expand, or refinance major fixed assets. So that's going to be commercial real estate, heavy equipment, and machinery. So if you are ready to own your own space, to own your own building, your own brick and mortar, this is a great fit for you. The program functions as a public-private partnership, meaning that you have three key players in figuring out how the loan is actually paid for. You're going to have a certified development company like SomerCor. We're going to be partnering with a traditional lender or a third-party lender. And then you're going to have a bank, or excuse me, the borrower, who's also then going to have to put their down payment in. Who can use the SBA 504 program? So it is a small business administration program, but if you're a for-profit business and you have under 20 million in tangible net worth and your 2 years average after tax net income under 6.5 million, you are eligible. So clearly, while it's called the Small Business Administration 504 loan, 20 million in tangible net worth is not what we traditionally think of as small, but I think that means that it can really be accessible by lots of different types of businesses. For commercial real estate, you have to actually be occupying and using at least 51% of the space, 60% of it for new construction. That means that we are not in the business of supporting speculative or developments or landlords. This is all about owner-occupied real estate. For eligible industries, generally, if it's federally legal, more than likely it's going to be legal to use the 504. We use a lot for things like manufacturing, franchise businesses, healthcare practices, storage, retail, restaurants, daycares, professional services. All of these and more are eligible for the 504. So why would you even consider the 504 as a small business borrower? Number one, the program actually has below market interest rates, meaning lower monthly payments. So right now, when we're talking about the SBA 504 loan, the loans that funded last month, I believe it was 6.37%. So that actually is a very low interest rate comparative to other loan programs out on the market. Additionally, less money down, meaning more freed up working capital. You're able to actually get 90% financing, meaning that your down payment on the loan could be as little as 10%. Traditionally, it's usually closer to 20 or 25. If you only have to put 10% down, then you'll be able to keep that rest of that capital in your business. And the financing is long-term and fixed, and there's going to be no surprise balloon payments. This means that you as the borrower will be able to have 10, 20, or 25-year terms at that fixed rate. There will be no surprise payments, and it helps you be able to really have accurate long-term planning. Talking about the types of things that you can use the 504 loan for, that's going to be land construction, land and building acquisition, construction, remodeling, equipment, fixtures, things that you cannot use it for, as we discussed, working capital, inventory, rolling stock or vehicles, things like that. You can see the comparison here that on the left is going to be traditional financing. If you just went to a bank and got a regular loan to be able to purchase a building, more than likely you're going to be ending up putting in 25% as your down payment. If you do it with the 504, more than likely you will only have to put 10% down. Additionally, let's say that you already own your building and you are interested in refinancing it. Maybe the interest rate on it is high. Additionally, you're able to leverage equity that's already built up in your property and take cash out. That's the only time in this presentation that I'm going to be talking about actually having working capital being able to be accessed by these programs. If you do refinance, you are able to take cash out and use some of that money for things like salaries or your mortgage or inventory, things like that. You will not be able to use it for a new business acquisition or personal expenses. So I can do a couple of Chicago examples here, some clients of ours. Production Rental Chicago was founded in 2016, and they are an event rental supply company. They also do refuse and snow removal as well. And they actually had a 3-year period where they increased their sales by 60%. And so they were ready to buy their own space. And they actually partnered with us on a 504 loan. And they purchased an over 30,000 square foot building in West Garfield Park. And so now they've been able to expand their business and hire more employees to be able to continue to grow. I have also a local refinance example. This is La Peña Restaurante, and it's been in Portage Park since 2001. And even though things with the pandemic were really difficult, he was able at that time to use two of our programs here. First, he used the SBIF grant to be able to do the new facade build out. Secondarily, he also worked with us on the SBA 504 refinance program. He already owned the building and he refinanced it, and he was able to cut his monthly mortgage payments nearly in half. If this is a program that sounds interesting to you, you're ready to buy your own space, here are some items to get together. You can either reach out directly to your lender, or if you don't have a business banker, you're welcome to reach out to me. And these are the things that we're going to want to look at to start. And to be honest with you, a lot of these things are items about your business that you should always have ready. If there's a grant or a loan or any type of financing that you feel like you will want to apply for, it's really good to almost think of these documents as your emergency to-go bag and have them all ready. You're going to want to have your last 3 years of corporate tax returns for the businesses, any interim financial statements, company debt, income projections. Personally, you're going to want to have your personal financial statement and tax returns, and then be able to explain what your project is going to look like. What are you going to spend it on in terms of the purchase of the building, in terms of any renovations and any equipment. And here I have some of our team members. You're always welcome, and I recommend emailing me first, and I'm happy to kind of connect you with the right person. But we do have here, a full team ready to go to support you with your SBA 504 and SBIF and NOF needs. And I'm going to shift back all the way to the beginning to my contact page. So my email address is up there. And then Geraldine, I'm happy to take any other questions on any of the programs that may have come up.
Perfect. Thanks for a great presentation. I actually just put your email in the chat as well.
Oh, perfect.
If anyone has any questions, if they could please put them in. What type of loan would you recommend for financing a bed and breakfast? Would a commercial loan be best option?
Let me think. So you are interested in doing a bed and breakfast. So a bed and breakfast, but potentially can be 504 SBA 504 eligible for purchasing the land and then doing the renovation. So I would say send me an email and let's talk a little bit more to see where you're at.
Okay, looking, please put any other questions in the chat. Lots of thank yous.
Oh, that's good. I know, and I do want to reaffirm, I know there was a lot of information thrown at you, 3 different programs. This is mostly really hopefully an encouragement about the resources that are out there, and just to kind of get you thinking, hey, I'm ready to have my own space. I want to make it work best for my business. And so this is a great starting point. And if you have more in-depth questions, I'm happy to connect you with those additional resources.
The slides will not be available for review, but this is being recorded and posted on Chicago BACP's YouTube page, and I'll put that in the chat one more time. For any certificate program questions, whether you're a graduate or have any questions, you could email bacpoutreach@cityofchicago.org, and I will also put that in the chat.
I'm just looking for myself here. Okay. Well,
is there a general website, Kim, you want to put up, or can we find or look at this information outside the session? There it is, SomerCor.com, right on the
That's
slide.
right.
There we go,
That's
guys.
right. That's right. And, within our own website, we have one that's dedicated just to SBIF. We have one that's dedicated just to NOF, and then also 504 there. And I think what's cool too is you can look at our website with a lot of other sample projects, so you can see what some of your neighbors have been able to do. And I encourage you to, if you see a neighbor that you recognize on there, go over and ask them, what was your experience? I'm sure they'll tell you that, it really made a big impact on my business. You do have to make sure you're keeping track of your paperwork and keeping in communication, but that it really is a big impact on your business.
Well, great. Thank you again. We're getting a ton of thank yous, great presentations. Thank you. Thank you. I want to thank him as always for such a great presentation and giving all her time to explain these great programs that are out there. And I want to wish everyone a happy, safe, hot, cold weekend. Who knows what it's going to be, but
I
everyone
know.
have a
Come
great
see
weekend.
me. Come see me on the 20th at the expo.
Oh, thank you for the plug. Yes,
You
Small
got
Business
it.
Expo coming up on, I'm sorry, September 20th. Thank you guys. Everyone have a great weekend.
Alrighty. Bye-bye.